Hello everybody, and welcome back to Certified Collectibles. This is another episode of First Appearances of the Week. This is Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. We'll be giving you all the first appearances hidden in your comic shops today. Now this week we have a pretty good lineup for you guys. I think we have 5 first appearances, 6 honorable mentions, so 11 titles on all to go through. Definitely a couple good books in there to add to your collection. So let's go ahead and get started for the first appearances of the week ending June 3rd, 2022. First up from DC Comics, Batman Annual Number 1. This features the first appearance of Grey Wolf. Now, the Batman title series is one of the tentpole series for DC Comics, especially in the Batman franchise. The other one, of course, being Detective Comics. And this does feature the first appearance of a new character. It really depends on what DC does with this particular character, but the fact that they're introducing him into one of the tentpole series, and the fact that this is an annual issue, we do think this one here is worth picking up and add to your collection. You know, all the tentpole series, Batman, Detective Comics, Superman, and Action Comics, all those annual issues we do think are worth picking up for the cover price. So go ahead and grab this one here for your collection. Next up for Marvel Comics, Ghost Rider number 3. This features the first team appearance of the Council of Night Magicians. Now, we always say pick up the first appearance of new characters or new teams in Marvel Comics, and Ghost Rider, very, very popular. Huge push behind this particular title right now, and this is the first team appearance of this new Council of Night Magicians. So this was one we do think is probably worth picking up the spec on. Go ahead and grab this one here for your collection. Next up for Marvel Comics, Miles Morales Spider-Man number 38. This features the first appearance of Billy Morales as the Spider Smasher in an alternate reality. Now, Spider-Man, incredibly huge franchise, the most popular and the most highly collected franchise for Marvel Comics. So this is one we do think you should pick up. Miles Morales, fan favorite character, and this is the first appearance of Billy Morales as a Spider Smasher. This one here is worth adding to your collection. Go ahead and pick this one here up. Next up from Marvel Comics, Strange number 3. This features the first appearance of Director Nunn, member of the Blasphemy Cartel. As we always say, pick up the first appearance of new characters in Marvel titles. This is no exception. This character is being introduced into the Strange title series, so this is one we do think you should pick up the spec on. This is a little bit more of a speculative bet because you really don't know what Marvel's going to do with this character, but you know, Marvel, Disney churning out a ton of media, streaming series, TV shows, feature films, so it's probably worth picking up the spec on for the cover price. Go ahead and grab this one here if you can. If you can't, put it in your B-list, take a look at it later on. And finally for Marvel Comics, Avengers Forever number 6. This features the first appearance of Vibranium Man, aka Star Panther. This is T'Challa from a future where he never became Black Panther. This is one we definitely think you should pick up and add to your collection. You know, Black Panther, T'Challa, fan favorite character. People love this character in the feature films and the comics. So this is one we do think is probably worth picking up the spec on. You know, Marvel, Disney, you don't know what they're going to do with this new Star Panther iteration of T'Challa, but for the cover price, it's worth picking up and add to your collection. Go ahead and grab this one. And now for the honorable mentions. From Image Comics, The Closet number 1. A family moving across the country can't shake the weight of their past, while the youngest sees monsters in the bedroom closet that will not let them go. Image Comics has had a lot of their titles optioned for TV shows, feature films, and streaming series, and this one here sounds like it lends itself very well to a small screen or big screen project. You know, this is definitely going to be a speculative bet if you choose to pick it up, but for Image titles, we do think it's worth picking up for the cover price. Grab this one here if you can. If you can't, put it in your B-list, but definitely keep an eye on it. Next up from Scout Comics, Code 45 number 1. A young woman is beckoned by a dark underworld in the city's subterranean tunnels. Once again, sounds like it lends itself very well to a small screen or big screen project. Scout is getting a lot more attention on their titles, and they have had a lot of their titles optioned for small screen and big screen projects. So this one here we do think is probably worth picking up the spec on. If you can't get them all, put this one on your B-list, but definitely keep an eye on this one as well. Next up from AWA Upshot, New Think number 1. This is a 5-issue anthology series that's compared to the Netflix show Black Mirror. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Black Mirror on Netflix. Incredibly popular show. People love that series, and the fact that this particular comic is compared to that series, we think this one here has great potential to be picked up and optioned for a streaming series such as Black Mirror. So this is one we definitely think is worth picking up for the cover price to spec on. Go ahead and grab this one here if you can. If you can't, put in your B-list, but definitely keep an eye on this one. We do think this one here has great potential. Next up from Image Comics, Phalanx number 1. This is a one-shot story to serve as an homage to the 90s era of Image Comics to recognize the company's 30th anniversary. Now, we typically pick up these anniversary issues, these anthologies that different companies put out, especially these small press companies put out, because there's always something hidden in there that's discovered later on. So for the cover price, in our opinion, this is probably worth picking up the spec on. But if you can't get them all, you can put this one here in your B-list. You may have a little time on this one, but like I said, in our opinion, this is probably worth picking up the spec on. Next up from DC Comics, Action Comics Annual number 1. This features the origin of Mongul. Like we mentioned earlier in this video, Action Comics is one of the tentpole series for DC, and this is the Action Comics Annual. In our opinion, like we mentioned, it's always worth picking up these annual issues. There's always a big collector base for these annuals. We've always had a lot of interest in the annual issues in the past, so this is one we do think is probably worth picking up for your collection. This also features the origin of Mongol, so grab this one here if you can. If you can't, put it in your B-list, but definitely take a look at it later. And finally for Marvel Comics, King Conan number 5. This features the origin of Thoth-Amon. Now, Conan is going to become a big deal in the MCU and the Marvel Universe, so anything related to these Conan titles is definitely worth more consideration now than it used to be. This is the origin of Thoth-Amon. We really don't know the importance of that character at this time, but for the cover price, this may be worth picking up the spec on. This is going to be a speculative bet. Pick it up if you can. If you can't, put it on your B-list, but take a look at that later. So there you have the 11 titles that we have for you guys this week. Definitely some books in there to add to your collection. Please feel free to drop some comments in the comment section below. Thumbs up if you like this video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.